everyone. I'm Penny Wolfgang, and welcome to The Big Picture. Stay with us for the next half hour as we visit another hometown restaurant and find out how they're working to serve their customers during these challenging times. Plus, we'll get the last word on the Buffalo Bills season from our friend Dave Jixter from 97 Rock. But we start with a conversation about COVID. Not what you usually hear in interviews lately about statistics and vaccinations and delays and how to stay safe, but what it is like to really have it and survive it. Joining us is Mark Ahrens, the marketing manager for Shatkin, F.I.R.S.T and Aesthetic Associates Center. Mark is a familiar face behind the scenes here at WBBZ, producing the Innovations in Health program. But now, here he joins us in front of the camera to talk about his medical journey. So welcome, Mark.
Oh, thank you, Judge.
So good to see you.
Great to be with you today.
So good to see you here and looking so well.
Yeah, I guess I'm lucky to be here today.
That's what we want to talk about. So inform our listeners and viewers, because I think it's very unusual that we have an opportunity to tell what it's really like and what really happens. And when were you diagnosed as being positive for the coronavirus?
Well, I was diagnosed positive on December 16th, and my wife had been positive the day before, and I was negative, and then the next day I was positive. And I have some diabetes and heart problems, so I was a little compromised, and I had been watching myself, staying at home and wearing the mask, and it wasn't good enough. And unfortunately, what I wanted to talk to you about today is the mental anguish that you go through and some of the questions that you ask, because we're hit every night when we watch the 6 o'clock news or 5 o'clock news that they come out with the statistics. And when you end up being a statistic, a lot goes through your mind. And, it's just, am I going to survive? I went to St. Joe's, which was a great emergency room. I was sent there by Dr. Sam Shatkin, who I work for the Dr. Shatkins at the Aesthetic Associates Center, and I started having some symptoms, and so he said,
what were the symptoms?
Well, I was achy. I'm in charge of doing the temperature in our office every day, so I noticed that it started going up, and luckily Dr. Todd has some the rapid tests, and we also have the nasal swab at our office, but the rapid test came back positive, and so I went home directly. But then things started happening, and you wonder if it's the mental part. My breathing started to get labored, and I started to have trouble, aches. My beautiful wife is a nurse, and she was there and helping me. We went out and bought one of those oxygen meters, and I was down at 71. So we called Dr. Sam, and he said, we'll go into to the emergency room. And that's a positive. Somebody is always important. Yeah. And he was able to converse with the emergency room doctor and take care of me. Now, I did that twice. I went one night to the emergency room, and they thought I wasn't too bad. But then the next night, I had to go back because my breathing was really getting bad. And, it's things start going through your head.
What's it like when you're battling COVID in the hospital? What was it like in St. Joe's?
And I shared this story with you, and yeah, Judge, it was crazy because they took me into my room at St. Joe's. Within an hour and a half, my nurse came in and was registering me, and within that hour and a half, there were 5 calls over the loudspeaker of emergencies happening. And the first time she excused herself, and it was probably 40 minutes later she came in again and then had to run out again, and she came back at the end, and she was, first of all, she was tired, but emotionally drained. And she said, well, we lost 5 people in that hour and a half. I'm going, wow. What I wanted to do was touch her, but you know, from everything that we hear on the news every night with the anchors and talking about it, and then you're seeing this in reality, in real time.
They're real people, not, as you said, not
Not a
statistics,
statistic.
real people.
Absolutely. And it starts playing games in your mind. And believe me, that night and the following night, I was watching TV and my eyes were wide open, because you get into a thing where next thing you know, they're putting oxygen in your nose because your oxygen level's so low that, am I going to be a statistic? And believe it or not, that continued even after I was home. That if I was sleeping in my Marco lounger, I call it, and if my wife was there watching TV with me, I would fall asleep. But you know, at come 11:30 at night, when she went up to bed, my eyes were wide open. You know, and today I'm sleeping through the night, thank goodness. But these psychological things are something that I hadn't heard about, and that's why I wanted to share that with you.
Yeah,
because
it's important for everyone to know that, you know, they keep talking about they might have after effects physically that we don't know about yet. If you had COVID, they say it might affect your heart, this, that. But people don't talk about what you are, the psychological effect that, you know, you're like afraid to sleep, that you won't wake up and things like that, and you probably keep remembering all that happened to you in the hospital.
Right, right. And, you know, at the end of my 3 days of being in the hospital, I think the total that I counted, there were probably more, but there were 9 people that died around me on our floor. And, you know, they have these, and you have a nightmare. I have a nightmare about this still. You know, they had these portable caskets that were aluminum, and they had red siding on, and you'd see them being taken down the floor, you know, the woman taking him down the floor, and just seeing that, it's still vivid in my mind. But what I want to talk about too here is, you know, you have these psychological effects, but, you know, what can the people at home do? You know, your friends and things. And things that helped me was I still had my cell phone, because it's a lonely experience being there. I mean, last night on the news. I was going to ask you about
being alone.
Yeah. They had that gentleman who was in the hospital 68 days.
I just saw that.
And what you have to realize is that's 68 days without contact, you know, face-to-face contact with their wives, their kids. You're in the hospital. So the cell phone was it's very important to me. And I mean, John DeShillo called me, and my friends from tennis, and my wife and kids, which were very important, and grandkids. That's important. So if you have somebody, even though it's tough to talk because you have that oxygen, and just hearing their voices talking is therapy. Is therapy, and very helpful.
Because we were always seeing the pictures of people, the main thing about dying alone or being alone or in the hospital, and you see, no wonder it had this effect on the nurses, because you can see the nurses trying to help you communicate with somebody.
Yes.
It's terrible.
Yes.
It's terrible.
And they did a wonderful job too, because I know they were busy, but, you know, come 2 o'clock, and, you know, they saw something wasn't happening, and they would sit down and talk to me. They would make sure I have everything. And then they would talk a little bit, and you get into some small talk, but any communication for a person like me who's in the communication end is important.
Yes.
I'm not a silent person.
Yes,
you know, I'm not very good at being in a room by myself.
I don't know how many people are. I mean, you know,
Right.
it's a really difficult part. Do you think your underlying, we were talking about how you think you caught it and you were cautious, but your wife was a nurse, and you said you were careful, but do you think your underlying issues had something to do with you being the one that got COVID as opposed to like other people in your family?
Well, other people in my family did get it. My wife, my son, my daughter-in-law, they got it, but, you know, it's like they were okay. My wife still is, I can tell she has a cough. You get like a dry cough at the end, which they say will last for a while. But I went to the cardiologist because, you know, you don't know. every situation is a first time for these doctors, you know, and every person reacts differently. And so, you know, I'm going for blood after this because one of the walls of my heart isn't reacting. And who knows what part COVID played with that, but I didn't have the problem before. And I play tennis 2 to 3 times a week. So
now, tell me about what you would like to tell our viewers what they should do, take it seriously, and what they should do to prevent getting it if they can.
Right. I mean, you know, we see so many parties on the side, and we saw a lot of people in the streets and 4 people to the table, and that's great. But what I'm saying is, even if you're a healthy individual, but you have a parent at home who's in their 60s, 70s, I mean, you have to gear your life. Until we get this vaccination and everybody gets taken care of, you have to treat it like it could be a life or death sentence for somebody at home.
Right, and the masks make a difference.
The masks make a difference, I think, and wearing glasses. I mean, I wear my glasses all the time now because they say having that
Really?
block. Yeah, and so I've been wearing my glasses all the time now, and still, I'm back to work. Last week, after 6 weeks, I was able to go back to work, and everybody at work was just tremendous. You know.
Yes, they're doing something at work. Sanitizers and so forth?
Yes, yeah, we have the sanitizer. We have, when everybody comes in the morning, they have to take their temperature. We have a book where they have to fill it out, and if they have a questionnaire, if they're having any.
And you've been making
yeah, we
at
make,
Shatkin.
yeah, Dr. Shatkin, you know, when this all began, and that's what I love about him. And when this happened and the governor asked companies that can retool to do it. Dr. Shatkin was on the phone. I was working with him, finding equipment so that we could produce the N95 mask right here, not only in America, in the US, but in Amherst, New York. And so we're producing, I think we have 2.5 million in stock right now. We're producing 55,000 a day. And, you know, we're doing our part. And now with the president, you know, with his Mask Up campaign for 100 days, we're jumping on that, and hopefully we can help.
Are you going to get vaccinated even though you've had COVID?
And this is, I'm glad you asked that question because I was watching Channel 2 today, and they brought it up that when I called the health department, I said, hey, can I get my vaccination? They said, when were you positive? And I said, December 16th, and she says you must wait 90 days.
Okay, but you will, but you do get it. You will get it.
Yes,
even
I
so.
will definitely get it
I
because
think that's
I
a
can't.
good, important question.
Hey, once you go through this,
Yeah.
you don't want to go through it again.
Yes, okay.
Believe me.
Oh, thank you, Mark Ahrens. It's been really, really important sharing your journey with us, and we really appreciate it. And everybody, remember to stay safe, be distanced, follow all the protocols. After this break, time to see how another local restaurant is doing, and the final word on our hometown team.